When the piano play becomes a state crime. A contribution by mich.pape. The Arne Schmidt case and the limits of the rule of law. Berlin, on September 3, 2025, something happened that even experienced judicial observers were stunned. Arne Schmidt, a 52-year-old pianist and peace activist, was arrested in the middle of his appeal procedure in the Berlin District Court. His offense? He is said to have committed a concert wing, stand peace break. An absurd allegation becomes a reality. Schmidt became known as a peace pianist during the Corona protests. With his rollable piano, he performed in demonstrations, played classical music and thus set a sign of non-violent protest. But what was intended as an artistic expression of opinion led to the indictment of the breach of the peace according to Section 125 StGB. Legally, this accusation is more than questionable. According to the case law, the breach of the peace requires violence or threats from a crowd. Piano playing does not fulfill these factual features. This is legally absurd, explains a criminal law expert who wants to remain anonymous. Music is not a violence per se. Escalation in the courtroom. After 11 days of negotiations, the situation escalated dramatically on September 3. Schmidt, who defended himself, had tried to find out the names of the lay judges in order to file a criminal complaint about legal avoidance. When this was refused to do so, after a negotiation he spoke to a lay judge in front of the courthouse, a process that he himself filmed and published on his social media channels. This incident now led to a new criminal proceedings for attacks on a lay judge and a judicial mechanic. The Berlin public prosecutor issued an arrest warrant for the risk of escape and blackout. Questionable reasons. On closer inspection, the public prosecutor's reasoning appears to be not very valid. Risk of escape. Schmidt appeared reliably for months at all negotiation dates. Disade risk. He published the videos of the alleged attack even on the internet. It could hardly be more transparent. Process observer Rudiger Bormann, who pursued all the negotiation dates, confirms, there was no reason for the arrest in the courtroom. We all puzzled. A pattern becomes visible. The Schmidt case is not isolated. He lends himself into a series of criminal proceedings against Corona critics who show a worrying pattern. Michael Ballweg, founder of the cross-thinking movement, was in custody for 10 months before he was largely acquitted in July 2025. Numerous doctors were banned or were persecuted because they criticized Corona measures. Demonstrators were taken with disproportionately hard punishments due to minor violations. Under pressure, under the rule of law, under pressure. The accumulation of such cases raises fundamental questions. Is criminal law misused as an instrument of political opinion control here? Erode the rule of law, such as proportionality and presumption of innocence? It is questionable if peaceful protest is criminalized, warns the constitutional lawyer Professor Dr. Hans Muller from the University of Hamburg. The right to demonstrate is a cornerstone of democracy. His factual hollowing out through excessive law enforcement harms social cohesion. The other side. The Berlin public prosecutor rejects criticism. Press spokesman Dr. Martin Weber emphasizes, we consistently pursue every criminal offense, regardless of the political attitude of the perpetrator. Mr. Schmidt has made himself punishable, which will clarify the courts. Critics of Schmidt also see his behavior problematic. Anyone who tracks lay judges exceeds a red line, argues the criminal lawyer Professor Dr. Klaus Wagner from the Humboldt University Berlin. Justice members must be protected. Social split deepens. Regardless of the legal assessment, the Schmidt case shows a social division that has solidified since the Corona period. While some see a martyr of freedom of expression in him, others consider him a disruptive of public order. This polarization is reinforced by media reporting. Critics are often stamped as a lateral thinker, or oaths, without seriously checking their arguments. Conversely, those affected storm themselves of sacrificing state arbitrariness. A system under stress, if the judiciary loses its credibility. The Arne Schmidt case is more than just a legal posse. It is a symptom for a legal system under stress that seems overwhelmed with social tensions and loses his core task from the eyes, the protection of citizens against real crimes. The question is not only whether Schmidt is legally convicted, but whether our democracy is strong enough to deal with dissent constructively without losing the proportionality. The numbers speak a clear language. While the judiciary reveals resources for the persecution of piano players and Corona critics, violent crime increases continuously. Knife attacks, rape and other serious crimes are increasing, but the perpetrators often only have to fear mild consequences. This imbalance not only feeds doubts about the credibility of the legal system, but also endangers social trust in equal treatment before the law. A constitutional state that pursues political dissident harder as a violent perpetrator loses his moral authority. As long as a pianist sits in custody for piano playing, while group rapists get away with probation punishment, doubts about the credibility of the legal system are nourished. In the end, this harms everyone, including those who are critical of Schmidt. Outlook. Arne Schmidt continues to sit in custody. When his new procedure begins is uncertain. His original appeal procedure for breach of the peace was postponed. The peace pianist has been silent for the time being. Everyone has to decide for themselves whether this is in the sense of justice. The only thing that is certain is that the case will further fuel the debate about the limits of protest and opinion law in Germany, and raise the question of whether our constitution is still worth the paper on which it is standing. Arne Schmidt has been in custody since September 3, 2025 in Berlin-Mobit. The Berlin Public Prosecutor's Office could not be achieved for a further statement. Schmidt's supporters started a fundraising campaign for his legal aid.